Hello and welcome to Evolving on Purpose, a show I have created in hopes that I can inspire you to take the deep dive into discovering who you are and what you came here to do. Each week, I will have on individuals to share their unique journey to self-discovery and where their purpose is taking them. I will also do solo episodes to share what I am currently learning, practicing, or even just contemplating. So come on, what are you waiting for? Join me in Evolving on Purpose. Hello. So today I have Deva Joy Gouss. She is a psychotherapist by trade. She's had a private practice in Atlanta, Georgia for 30 years, and she's the author of 2 books. And she has a series of workshops. So I can't wait to introduce you to Deva. Deva, welcome.
Thank you so much. Love being here with you.
So Deva, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, because it's one of the most significant things in my life as an adult, which is that I married myself. So let me tell you how, of course, I was going through this very painful divorce and in that deep searching that happens, I think, with changes like that, I was asking myself and contemplating, what is a marriage? Is there a marriage where there's no divorce? And the only true answer to that is yes, to myself, because what happens when we actually marry ourselves? Like, you really can't divorce, right? You can divorce, luckily, yet that is truly an option with everyone else. But if you divorce yourself, like, you're really in trouble.
You're still there though, right?
Right. Exactly. What are you going to do? When you said that, I saw a skit of someone like running around going like, how do I divorce myself? Right. So to consciously marry myself became like my real focus, which helped me as I was letting go of my marriage to another person. It helped me to be over here also going, this is so painful, and I'm birthing something here. So I'm a romanticist, and I started, first of all, I looked at my almost ex-husband at the time and thinking, this is a reflection of my masculine energy. So I need to grow up that aspect of myself.
So can you talk about that a little bit? Because not everybody even might understand that they have a masculine and a feminine energy, whether you're male or female, right?
Absolutely. So we are all feminine and masculine energy, and there are different qualities and attributes that we attribute to the masculine and certain ones that we attribute to the feminine. And then they intertwine and they support one another or they hurt one another. And some of us have stronger feminine aspects and some of us have stronger masculine aspects. And then with the feminine, with each quality, there is a real positive aspect to it and also a shadow aspect, and same with the masculine. So for example, the quality of receptivity, that's a feminine quality. It's known as a feminine quality, and it's a beautiful thing to be receptive. But then if you take it too far, then we are actually in the shadow aspect of sponging in and not knowing where we start and where we end. So how important it is then to track that attribute and make sure that it's in balance. And so it's very complex. And I have a whole module in the Marrying Yourself journey on the feminine masculine. So people really grow to know that inside themselves. We all need to, and to grow in that. It's part of that, to me, is that self-marriage. Going back to my story about how I came into this. So I started really like wooing myself, so I kind of growing up my masculine because there were some adolescent behaviors going on. And so I strengthened that with feminine, masculine, kind of romancing myself, growing to know myself, courting myself, basically, going on dates, buying flowers, all that stuff. and discovering how different my masculine energy is from my feminine, and growing in love slowly. And then I was like, I need to get engaged because, and this is the unique part, because I know a lot of people who do marry themselves at this point. Now, for me, this was over 30 years ago that I married myself. Um, and in that process of of making that commitment, I mean, life, it just all changes. I just want to say that. So getting engaged, this is the unique part about this program, if you want to call it that, is my own inner program was what happens when you get engaged? Well, it is a magical time. And it's also a time that you sometimes do premarital counseling, right? So there's a lot of inner work that I felt I needed to do in preparation for my wedding day, so that upon my wedding day, I feel immense substance. And I know and truly trust that I am going to show up in those vows that I am taking. So that's why I love for people to really take it slow when they look at this option for themselves, and to get engaged, be led through inner guided work, and then come into marrying yourself. So that's what I did with myself. And a year later, I got married in India. And I came home from India and I really radiated something different. And so people were like, oh, what's happened? I'm like, well, I married myself after a year of being engaged. And they're like, oh my gosh, I want to experience that. So I put together a weekend workshop, and people loved it. They got engaged in the beginning, they got married at the end, and that was very meaningful for them. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is so not it, because I did all this burning, all this searching, all this finding, all this being uncomfortable at times. And that's what I mean by burning, like when you allow yourself to be uncomfortable in a change, and also celebrating and discovering. And it takes a long time. So I put together, based on my own experience, a year-long journey. And at this point, I've led many groups through it in person. And you asked about men and women. So the women have done it with themselves, a group, and the men have gone through it with themselves. So that way there's this male bonding and a feminine goddess bonding. And but then people started asking for it who didn't live in Atlanta. So I created this online interactive experience. I tried to write it as a book, Angela, for quite a while, and I just could not do it. And then I took this wonderful writing course, and it was in this format that was interactive. I was like, this is it. I can deliver it this way. And along with this experience, you can go on to this optional Zoom weekly meeting. So it is also community, and people live all over the place. And I feel like we're really help each other in this process. So it's been a wonderful thing to put it online. Um, and I never knew that when I was going through this in my early 30s, this personal experience, that it would really become such a beautiful, powerful, transformative thing for others. And so that's like, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, you were like 30 years early on this, because I feel like now people are kind of waking up to this. I mean, look at Miley Cyrus's new song, I Can Buy Myself Flowers. It's kind of got this vibe, right? Like, I'm going to woo myself. I don't need you to. I can do it, right? But that wasn't 30 years ago. That wasn't a thing. Like,
right.
We were not talking about this. We were not talking about the masculine and feminine. We were not talking about really knowing ourselves. And so yeah, you've really been kind of on the forefront of this.
I know it's wild to really think that, but I get like, oh yeah, you're right, people weren't doing that then. I do want to say, like, there goes to actually take a deep dive into oneself in a guided way. And I'm, as a psychotherapist, I was able to really discover and guide myself, but having for people a format of like knowing like this is what you do next. So I really do take people through. Let's like really look at first of all, you signing up. That's a huge thing. Just making that like commitment. I'm going to do this, right? And then moving into really who are you looking at knowing what's inside. Who are you?
Yeah.
And then it's the greatest antidote to codependency, because codependency is all about making the other person more important than yourself and finding your worth through attending to someone else's life and their needs and being of service to that, to the point that we often disappear to ourselves.
Can you talk about like some examples of what it looks like when, because it can be kind of sneaky, right? Codependency. It can look like you're just like a really, good person, or
Absolutely. Absolutely.
deep dive into that a little bit.
Yes, and I really appreciate the question. This is on all different degrees, right? So there's the person who lives with the alcoholic and does everything to try to like cater and hide and maintain and control. And that's kind of more obvious case. But then for so many of us, and especially the feminine aspect in women as well as men, I think it's more prevalent in women, is that we are conditioned to attend to other people's needs. Like that is your goodness. That is your worth. That's your beauty. That's the beauty. And be of service. Be of service. There's beauty. There truly is beauty in it, right? But when we become that is all our life is about, and we might feel really empty. We might feel really drained. We might feel but we get off on it on some level of like the martyr energy of like, I do so much for others. I feel like, you just are in it. But then at the end of the day, like, like you're running on fumes, and what's all of it for, right? It gives a certain meaninglessness unless you're actually in your own body and with yourself as you experience everything.
Yeah.
And I think just like anything, brushing our own teeth, it every day we really need to be in just relationship with ourselves. We spend so much time on our phones, for example. If your people are just sitting around, they are on their phone. They're not with their own thoughts. And so a lot of people who go into withdrawals in my practice on from their phone, because it's an addiction, right? And we have so many ways of distracting ourselves from ourselves that we don't know what we want anymore, what we need anymore. Have we betrayed ourselves in any way, or are we advocating for ourselves? Are we dreaming? Are we breathing into ourselves, an aware breath? And are we moving? And are we eating well? And just it goes on and on. Are we saying kind things to ourselves?
Yeah. That's a big one. And I think we can start little, right? Like you don't have to change anything in your life to just bring a little bit more awareness to smiling at yourself in the mirror or saying nice things, right? Like we can start a little by little.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a step-by-step process. So after you really look at the codependency, then we get engaged. And then we start to do a self-retrieval, because if we're going to move forward with ourselves, we start to find out like I really like have unresolved stuff over here in my past and in this relationship. So there's a guided work to bring these parts forward, to have a healing from past relationships. And we have a focus on how to really be allies with your mind, how to be with your feelings as they come up, how to love and move your body and appreciate what your body can move, how to nourish your soul. And it also goes into what you were talking about before, how to romance yourself. It also goes into how to parent yourself. So that's like a different approach, right? That we have these inner little kids inside, and how do we parent them? And if we didn't receive full parenting in a most ideal way, sometimes we really have true deficits that show up with ourselves.
And I think everybody has wounding from childhood, no matter who you are. And it's very interesting. I love studying astrology, and astrology has, it's called the Black Lilith moon. And it's always where we carry our guilt and shame. And it's very interesting to see. I have two sisters, right? And so there's three of us, and we all carry guilt and shame in a different area of our life, even though we had the same parents, we had the same childhood. but we saw it in a
Yes.
very different way, and we have different wounding from it. So I think that no matter what, you're going to have things, even if it was just a teacher that said something, or there's always something. We're geared for this, right? As kids, we're geared to kind of take on this kind of like, ooh, that really hurt, and not know what to do with it. And so I love
Of
that you have a whole
course.
module to teach people about this, because it's just not talked about enough, right?
No, I absolutely. You make that really good point about your siblings and you all, taking it in a different way. But you're right. We all have a narrative, not only in our heads, but in our bodies, our cellular memory. And there's a wounding in it, and there's also some resources in it to how to tap into those resources and bring healing to the wound. It takes training. You just can't go say, go do that, and someone go like, oh, okay, I'll go do that. I mean, if we didn't learn how to do it, how are you going to do it? So therapy, a lot of my therapy is about training in that positive parenting. And so I put a lot into the module about that. Like, it's a very thorough, because there's so many parts of parenting. There are at least, 10 different, I call it a flower, 10 different petals, different aspects, whether it's nurturing or support or protection or bringing respect or sense of place. All these different things are part of parenting.
Yeah. Oh, I love you've got like 18 modules that bring you through this entire year. And it's really going on a deep level of every aspect. You've really covered every aspect. And I love the metaphor of marrying yourself, but then touching each one of these. And rituals are amazing, right? Like I love rituals. So you've created this ritual, this entire ritual, the ritual of marriage. You've created this really deep dive into each, the masculine, the feminine, the codependency, your mind, your body, embodying the goddess. Like, you have hit every single point, and you're doing it with community. So I'm so excited
Aww.
about this. I think this is a really, really cool way to really commit to yourself, right?
Yes, and so I just love how you just framed that, by the way, with as the whole thing is a ritual, because everything to me is about sacred ritual, and I hadn't myself framed it that way, so that was a great gift. Thank you. And you're right, of course, weddings are rituals. But you're right, every step of this is full of ritual.
Yeah.
So thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I love it so much. And then you were going to be kind enough to kind of bring us through the 7th module so we can learn a little bit more about this and give us a little teaching. So can you tell us about
Yes,
the 7th module?
absolutely. And it's one of my favorites, because if one just focuses on this, we'll be okay, right? So it's called Taming Your Mind, Embracing Your Heart, Loving Your Body, Nourishing Your Soul. So let's go with the first one, Taming Your Mind. We could go on and on about that one, right? But it's about it's about how to help our minds be our ally instead of our foe. And it's okay that our minds have critical thoughts. Don't beat yourself up for having critical thoughts. Like, in a sense, they're like floating around. And we take in that aspect from negative messages that we either hear or we think we hear. We think about ourselves in response to what's happening as we're growing up. Or even we take in, as children, we take in, if our parents feel are hard on themselves, we take that in. We start to have like a negative survival thought. If a parent doesn't explain to us why things are happening, we'll make up a story, and children are about themselves, we make it about ourselves. So it's like, wow, I must not be good enough if my dad is not here. And no one said, like, your dad loves you, he's working, da 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 da. So we have this critical voice. So it's okay, but we need to absolutely understand that it's not who we are. We want to learn how to soothe it, really, to be tender with it. And as soon as we do that, it's like a parent loving on a child who's crying and being a brat. It's like, wrapping that kid with what the kid needs, right?
Yeah.
So taming your mind. So there are tools. One step is witness your mind. So your mind's saying this and that. Okay, so there's my mind saying negative stuff to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's my mind obsessing about this problem I have. So the first question, now we have witnessing. Now you're not just your mind, you can look at your mind. The second thing is to ask, is this serving me? Is this doing something for me? Sometimes we think like, yeah, I actually need to solve this problem, but we're not going to solve a problem from the vibration, the frequency that it's created from. So it's actually important to take a break from it, even if you have to solve something, and elevate your energy by self-soothing, self-comforting, working with yourself in other ways. So the answer is almost always take a break from your mind. And to take a break from the mind. So some people are really big on affirmations. Angela, I am not, because I think it just creates like more battle with the mind. So if the thought is I'm not good enough, and the mind goes like, yes, you are. We're okay. We're good enough. No, I'm not. Look, I did that. I did this. Well, yes, we're okay. We're okay. And it becomes more of that mind gymnastics. So I like to interrupt the mind with a mantra that is Sanskrit words. And the Sanskrit language has vibration to it that literally works with your biochemistry. And these are universal sounds, and they have arisen from very awake states of consciousness. So my favorite universal mantra is Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. And it translates in English to mean something like Om is that primordial sound of the universe. Namah is like naming the unnameable. Shivaya is the divine, the spiritual, God, whatever word you want to use. So it's like naming that within yourself, within everything. So it's very benign. So one doesn't have to worry about like what they're saying, but the sounds themselves, Om Namah Shivaya, you can't argue with that. You can't like, that's not true. So it soothes the mind immediately. And it's like a surfboard through ocean waves. That's one tool. Another tool to interrupt the mind noise is to take a deep, deep inhale. And with the exhale, make the sound shh, that artificial sound that mothers make and fathers too when we rock our babies. Shh. And what I really believe, I came upon this sound and I was like, oh, this is changing my biochemistry. I can feel it. So it's very soothing. So I would just say, let's all do it together. A deep inhale. And with the exhale, a long shh. And we follow that out. And we do it again and again. And it soothes. And I use this with my clients, people report across the board. That's helpful. Between that, the mantra, and then there's a saying, change your physiology to change your psychology. And I'm a great believer in this. Like, if we don't get our bodies involved, then we're actually going to get stuck. So you can just, even like on a body level, if just like sit back all slouched back, you're going to feel that eventually. But if you sit up really tall and you press your sits bones into the chair and you feel your spine and you feel your heart opening and you feel your breath deeper in that, you're going to feel more confident in taking up more space and more aligned vertically. So but moving your body is very important. And on my website, healingheartcommunications.com, I have like 25 healing energy medicine exercises videos that are 1 to 3 minutes long for people to just work with these different exercises. Many of them I learned and some of them I made up. If they are very effective, and you could just do it literally for 1 minute and really have your energy elevated. So moving your body is part of taming your mind.
Yeah. That's something I use if I start to feel anxiety welling up and I notice my mind racing, I'll get up and I'll do a couple real quick yoga stretches or something. And it gets me, it moves state, right? Like it gets me out of that state.
Yes, that is so wise. And one of my favorite to do is called shaking. And if you think about an animal in the wild who gets away from the predator, the first thing that animal does naturally is shake their body. They shake it off and they get their nervous system back into place. And we are under so much stress, so much, and we're so disconnected from our bodies that we forget to shake. But literally, and with this one, you keep your feet on the ground instead of jumping up and down. It's very important in terms of grounding as you release. And then you just like bounce your knees a little bit up and down and shake your arms and let your head flop down. And you just, and you make some sounds. And just 30 seconds of that can do tremendous things.
I love that. I've been trying to create a new morning routine, and so I don't really love to watch videos, right? Like I'll watch them for a while and then I'll get bored of it. Right. And so I just started making a music, like a mixed music on Spotify. And I'll have some slow songs and I'll have some really fast songs. And then I have like this one song that's a tribal dance song that my friend put on like a booty yoga move thing.
Yes.
And so I have that in every mix so that when that comes on, I almost like a tribal, like shake my whole body, and it feels so good. And I guess I didn't think about how we don't shake enough, but I just had tried her like booty yoga, that music selection, and I could not shake my body. And I was like, this feels really good. So then I added it to every thing. And, if anybody looked at me doing my routine every morning, they think, has she lost her mind? But it feels really good. It really does. And if you can't shake, I heard a psychologist talk about even just making that like almost like a horse sound. My husband says, like, what is wrong with you? Because I'll walk around, if I get stressed, I'll walk around and I'll make that sound until I calm down.
Yeah, that's adorable. Yeah, well, if you really make that horse sound, it's more like right.
Yeah.
Anything like that, tapping.
Oh yeah, I love tapping.
Looking at your finger and letting your eyes follow your finger as it makes an infinity sign in front of you. Oh,
that's a really good idea.
And that way
you could do that sitting in your car or something.
Absolutely.
I love all of this. And the shushing made me think about when my babies would scream in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. And I was stressed, right? And so I would just shh, 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 shh. And it calmed me down. I bet it was more calmed them, right? Because I'm doing that movement. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, yeah. So you knew intuitively and like just to do that. And yeah. So in this module, the next section, so we spend time in that. And I always recommend that people spend at least 3 days in that focus, taming your mind. Then we go on to embracing your heart. And what does this really mean? But to really actually keep giving permission to the feelings that arise. So resist, persist, and to not make ourselves wrong for any feelings. And to be tender with ourselves, to become spacious, allow the feelings, and be tender. You can just even bring your hands to your heart and touch your heart with your palms of your hands and breathe into that spot. And just that simple practice of just bringing nurturance, bringing tenderness. So there's many aspects to that, but that's one of them. And loving your body. I love what you just said about the playlist that you would create and moving through these different movements. And some people are very uncomfortable in their bodies. And what I want to say is that, so for myself, I was crippled as a child. I couldn't walk. I couldn't move my arms. I had rheumatoid arthritis. And I grew to really pay attention to what I could move instead of what I couldn't move. If I could move a finger, like that became like a relief and gratitude. So part of loving your body isn't just like, oh, do you like how you look? Do you like how your weight? This and that. And usually the mind has a lot to say about that. But we could go into it from a different angle of like, we are in these vehicles and whatever they do so many things that we don't even pay attention to. Our parasympathetic nervous system, our sympathetic nervous system, our blood flow, right? All sorts of things, our heart beating. We don't go like every single second, like, thanks for beating. But all these things are happening, our digestion, like there's so much to like love into and say thank you and to notice this is happening. And sometimes we can notice when we just breathe deeper and we breathe consciously into our bodies and we start there. But anything that your body can move, and I speak from someone at some point in my life who couldn't move, and now I do teach yoga and stuff. I'm grateful, but I still know that most people's bodies have their pains and limitations, if you live long enough, right? So to really notice what is working in your body and to love it and start from there instead of like, am I at the right weight?
So yeah, that's been a really big focus for me because I've always just struggled with, my mom dieted my whole life. And so we always had that kind of mindset of looking at the scale and watching, and I've always just kind of struggled with that. But I've always been into health. Like I love eating healthy and I love all of that. But this year I've been really focusing on loving my body exactly how it is. And I would read, how they have like emotions stored in different parts of the body. There's metaphysical books, or Louise Hay has a really beautiful book that talks about what if you have your elbow hurts, it's this emotion, or, and so I have cellulite on my thighs, right? Which of course I wasn't loving. And in Louise Hay's book, it says that that's a form of self-hate. And I never really connected to that because I don't feel like I hate myself. And then I listened to a gal talk about how every single thing that your body does is to keep you alive. It is only focused on keeping you alive. So any symptom you have, anything that's happening, that is your body trying to keep you alive. It loves you. It wants you to survive, right? And so when you really think about cellulite, it's, maybe some toxins and things stuck in there, and it's keeping me alive. Like it doesn't want that stuff in my body. So it's found a place to store it. And so when you think about that, you can be thankful for even that. Like, thank you for storing this for me and to keep it away out of, so I can survive and live and thrive. And I just love that reframing.
I love that.
Love that.
Yes, I love it too. I love that so much because it makes sense. I think, if you are no different than any other species, and if you think of another, and let's say even a bug who gets like their little, okay, they get hurt in some way and they're dragging their body, they're trying to get away. Everything is geared towards that. And I do think that so much of what happens in our bodies is geared towards that. And not maybe everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we get cancer or whatever else. So I just think that everything that we learn, we need to keep in just a bigger perspective that there's truth to it. And then don't beat yourself up for it, right?
Yeah.
People go to that degree, like, oh, if I'm creating this, or it's all about this feeling, then why can't I undo it?
Yeah.
And that can become such a mind trick. And so I just really want to say, like, there's also a mystery to everything, right? There's just a mystery, and to be compassionate with ourselves with whatever is on our plates.
And we don't know everything. So why would we tell such a bad story? Like, tell better stories, right? I just always think that. I'm always like, tell a better story. Like,
Absolutely. Yes. And that is our constant challenge and opportunity, right?
It is. That's what I challenge everybody to right now. Like, what is the story that you're telling about your life? Could it be better? Can you tell a better story? Did you see that that new movie on Netflix with Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon. I think it's Your
I did
Place or
see it.
Mine.
Yes,
He talks about, let's reframe this. Let's tell a better story, man. And like, I just loved that. That was in a
absolutely.
mainstream movie. Like,
Yes. Yeah, it's that we have that option. And if one doesn't feel like they can have that option, that they cannot think a better story, then that just means that person needs more help. That your
yeah.
biochemistry is in a certain way that at this point you can't, because if your biochemistry and hormones are more balanced, you absolutely can have that choice. But also, if you can't, don't beat yourself up. It's just it's more information of more is needed.
Because that's what you talk about with what resist will persist. Even if you can't tell like this beautiful, wonderful story about how grateful and how wonderful everything is, you can still not try to get out of what's happening. You can be with it, right?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because that's such a big part of embracing your heart, is to be with the feelings and to make space for the sad, to make space for the mad, to make space for the despair, to be with it. Because if we're running from all those feelings or making them wrong, then they are going to go underground and then hurt us in other ways. We can't, it's just, and you know what? There's a lot of suffering on the planet. And if our hearts are open and we're paying attention, we're going to feel pain, even if it's not something right now in our own lives. Our own lives includes everything I feel that's going on, that this really is one globe. And so we're all part of that. And so to make space for the grief, it's so important. It's a really big part of learning how to be with ourselves and love ourselves and know that we can trust ourselves to be with the feelings that come up. That's part of marrying yourself. Just to even learn how to listen to what you are feeling is significant.
Yeah. I think that's something we don't talk enough about in this, especially in the spiritual community. It's a lot about you create your own reality and let's manifest this and let's do this.
Right.
And there's been, I gave myself 2020 as the year of gratitude. I didn't try to do anything else but have gratitude that year. And it was a really good year. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I want to create something, right? And the next year was kind of hard because you have ups and downs when you try to bring anything in. But that just being in gratitude gave my body kind of a reset.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's just such a beautiful practice. And what I want to say about that practice is that for some people who feel really bad that they think they should feel grateful, they have so much to be grateful for, but they can't be great. They're not genuinely feeling it. They could think it in their head.
Yeah.
Is that that's okay. It's just like make it a practice to receive the things in your life.
Yeah.
Just like receive. If you're drinking water, like you're receiving it, gratitude will naturally be a byproduct to receiving. If you're looking at a flower and you're receiving its beauty, you're like, a gratitude will be more of a feeling level and a natural thing. So that's just one thing. And I wanted you to go back to what you were talking about, law of attraction, and what I tell people about it. And this is just, I
love
respect
every angle.
other people. Yes, exactly. And for me, it's like that is a great thing to play with. Let's play with that, because why not? Like what you were saying, why not make a better story? Why not like play with your thoughts? Why not go for elevating your vibration to the best of your ability as you're doing that, right? And there is the mystery, right? So someone who has cancer and they're fighting for their life, and and let's say they're dying and they go into hospice care, and I've had this in my life quite a bit with people, is, was that a failure on the law of attraction? Did I not think my way, like what? And I've seen this. So I've seen people who really like had invested in that thought, the law of attraction, get so in anguish with themselves. And so I say, like, it's so much bigger, but it's a fun thing to play with.
And bad things happen, hard things happen. Life is a series of events that we cannot plan for, but the thoughts that you have about every single moment is so important, right? Even if, and I'm not afraid to die. That's not like my thing. When I was little, I was definitely afraid of death. It was very scary for me. But at this point, I'm not afraid to die. So that doesn't bring me these feelings of fear. But I am afraid to not give this life my all. Right. Like I just, and so I think we just have to figure out what our why and what would make this life fulfilling for us. What would bring us purpose in this life?
And I love
that.
I love that, because that's an invitation, and that's gentle. That's, it's just an invitation, like how to be more awakened to the state, how to have your heart a little bit more open, and to really notice in the present moment what's happening that's beautiful in each exchange. It's just an invitation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it scares me to put myself out there in any capacity in here. And I'm doing it, right? Like doing it anyways, because my why is really strong, right? So what is the why? What do you really want? And I think these big questions are so important. And I think that when you bring yourself, I used human design to kind of find myself, right? I used the tool of human design to find myself, to understand why I came here, to understand my why. But it could very easily come from doing your program, because the same principles apply. We're looking deeply at every aspect of ourselves. Who am I? Why do I react this way? Am I in a healthy balance? And when we can get to that balance, then we can live a more purposeful and fulfilling life, even though things are still scary and things can still be hard.
Right.
But when you understand that you have yourself, like you've got your back, I trust myself. Do you notice that a lot with people doing your program? Do they feel a lot more self-trust in the end?
It's amazing. It's just, I say to people, I'm so moved by what I witness in people, but no one's life that has gone through the process of marrying themselves in this way it's the same. And people really know that nothing can take it away. No one can take it away. No relationship can take it away, because that cultivated inner work. So it's not just an insight into how I am, but steps by step of how to be rearranged so that you're truly anchored inside, and setting healthy boundaries and knowing how to do all that. So yes, it's amazing to see people really trusting themselves. And even during the process, so every Thursday night I'm on this Zoom call with the people who are right now taking the journey, and it's amazing just to step week by week to notice how people are shifting and showing up and being with themselves in a more profound way. And yeah, I'm in awe of it, really.
I love that so much. Can you, real quick, I cannot believe we're already almost at an hour. Can you give us a little bit of information about boundaries? I hear this a lot. Set better boundaries. Set a boundary. You got to have boundaries. But I don't often hear what a healthy boundary looks like.
Okay. So let's just start with the word, right? Boundary. So it's like where I start and where I end, right? Like knowing what's in my body is mine. What comes up in your body is yours. That's one thing, which is a radical thought for codependent, by the way, because codependent thinks I'm responsible. I'm going to help with whatever's going on in you. I'm going to take care of it. So a boundary also keeps you safe. And a boundary calls upon you to listen to yourself and to know what you need and what you don't need, what feels right to you, what doesn't feel right to you, what's your no, what's your yes. And that takes pausing for many of us. We are very responsive to other people, reactive as well. So let's pause and what's really, and if your body's contracting, that might mean that you don't actually want to do that, what you just said you're going to do, for example. So it takes that deep listening, and then it takes really using your voice and saying what you need and what does work for you and what doesn't work for you. And there is a negotiation, especially in primary relationships, to work through on that level, but you have to know where you actually are starting at. So boundaries keep us safe. Uh, they keep us true to ourselves, and they're necessary. Uh, they add to even deepening in love, because if you don't have boundaries, then we get really enmeshed and much more into like an anxious attachment style, for example. And then lots of dances happen with that. You push away, you get enmeshed, you hurt. But if you're paying attention to yourself, and then it's that sense of like what I call vertical versus horizontal. So the horizontal relating is like, what do you need? What do you think of me? How can I get you to like me more? All of that stuff is on a more subconscious level, but it's operating. But if we go vertical with energy from above us, going through us into the earth, at this portal this way, it's like, I have my backbone. I have me with me. I get to like attend to this and know what this needs and wants and speak it. It really is a long journey, I think, of learning how to listen to the body as we go through our lives and exchanges, to know like when we're out of balance with ourselves, when we're allowing something to happen that doesn't feel good, when we allow someone to talk to us in a way that is hurtful, and not just what they're saying is hurtful, but actually how they're saying it. Perhaps their tone of voice or their daggers or throwing whatever. And how do we take care of ourselves, set of boundaries, be protective of ourselves? So it's a very pervasive thing that they're essential.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Deva, for all of this wonderful information. I love that some people got to learn some tools to tame their mind and to embracing their heart and loving their body. I just think that we gave them so many wonderful tools that they can use right now. And then, can you share if somebody's interested in either marrying themselves or just learning more about you? What's the best way to find you?
So the website for the Marrying Yourself Journey is the marryingyourselfjourney.com. So it's very easy to remember. And you can check out more information about that. It has a little intro that's available. My website is healingheartcommunications.com, or you can get to it by devajoy.net. And that is also where not only do I speak about my services, I have these different videos. One is called, that I did in a studio, is called Living with Arthur. It's about living with disease and overcoming and how to shift the focus. And then I say, what is your Arthur? Because everyone has one, right? And then these other videos of energy medicine work that's only 1 to 3 minutes long, and they can help really move energy. So I support you to check that out. And my books are on Amazon. Rearranged, Never the Same, The Nature of Grief, which is about grieving as well as still connecting with those who have left. And The Toolbox of Hope, for when your body doesn't feel good. It's a workbook for yourself when you have illness or disability or pain.
Yeah, I love that you're supporting people, because that's really hard. I had some autoimmune conditions and a lot of panic and anxiety and things like that, and it's really hard to work through to find the joy when you're in that space. So I love that you have a resource for people.
Thank you. Yeah, Angela, I love talking with you. You're so easy to talk with, and it's a delight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you so much and all that you're doing. And everybody go check her out, okay?
It was good to talk with everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. I appreciate you so much. The fact that you showed up, the support that I feel supporting Deva, and really just learning to be more curious about yourself and what's maybe going on beyond the surface, or where we can improve mindset, or where we can bring more self-love into our lives. If any of this connected with you and you want to connect with Deva, that would be wonderful. If you are interested in a human design reading, you can always reach out to me at my site, evolvingonpurpose.org. But really, it doesn't matter what tool we use. It's just asking yourself, how can I bring more purpose into my life? How can I be the best version of myself? And what's holding me back are some really good questions to start with. And there are so many teachers out there. There are so many different ways. It's really about asking yourself, what is working for me, or what do I need? And listening to that body wisdom or that subconscious that can drive us to the right tools. So doesn't matter how you get there as long as you're on the journey. So come on, let's keep evolving on purpose.